The government has confirmed that the Brexit trade talks will continue with the EU. This decision from Britain's government comes after the UK ignored the EU's ultimatum to scrap plans to override the Withdrawal Agreement. Now, the EU went as far as to threaten the UK government with legal action after a disastrous meeting with Michael Gove last night. Negotiators on both sides have acknowledged that they are still clashing on significant issues going forwards. We spoke to the journalist Margaret Stead about the ongoing Brexit negotiations in this interview.
Well, this has been a complete dog's dinner. The first question to ask is, how on earth did the government get into this mess? Let's not forget now, they won December's general election with an 80-seat majority. They won seats in places that had been Labour heartlands for generations. There was a great deal of public goodwill towards Boris Johnson and the new government at that time. So the question has to be, how on earth did they make such an elementary mistake that their own withdrawal agreement needs amending after such a short space of time in a fairly obvious way? Let's not forget it was passed only in January. Now, Boris Johnson is not a man known for his attention to detail. It's a character fault that caused him considerable problems during his tenure as Mayor of London. And now as Prime Minister, we're seeing that he's not really somebody who reads through policy documents and studies them in a way that Margaret Thatcher did. She often got by on 4 hours sleep per night. Now, I'm not saying Boris Johnson has to have that level of dedication to the job, but it does seem as though he has, shall we say, a lazy streak in him, and that's very much an attitude of act now and never mind the long-term consequences. That's how he seems to me. But let's cut through the jargon on exactly where we're at with this. We've had the chance to look at the United Kingdom Internal Market Bill, and the relevant sections are clauses 42 and 43, which apply to Northern Ireland. And it's that clause 43 that gives the most cause for concern, really. It refers to Article 10 of the Northern Ireland Protocol, referring to state aid, specifically in relation to agricultural products. And it's this clause 43 that allows the Minister, who's currently Brandon Lewis, to interpret Article 10. That effectively puts them on a collision course with the EU in relation to its own internal market rules, and it will cause issues with exporting goods between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And there's a key line a bit further on in Clause 45, which states that Clauses 42 and 43, when they become law, will have effect, to quote it, in spite of any relevant international or domestic law with which they may be incompatible or inconsistent.
Now, this has caused some international shockwaves in the last week, with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, making a threat to the UK almost, that if this bill goes through, this could really jeopardise the US-UK trade agreement. Do you think this American threat could make a difference going forward to Boris Johnson and his cabinet?
We really ought not to underestimate the risks that a so-called no-deal Brexit brings. In a no-deal scenario, so-called, there are so many things that happen in this country that would have no legal basis. Some of them very serious indeed, some of them more trivial. Now, to take an example lots of people can relate to, most of the world's best Formula One teams are based near Silverstone racetrack, and the agreement that allows racing cars to get in and out of this country, 18, 19 times per year in a normal season for Grand Prix around the world, that would not be in place, and it would be an ordeal to get the cars and the parts in and out the country. There are many other examples like that. The other side of the coin is that I cannot think of a single item of food or drink that couldn't be sourced from outside the EU if we absolutely had to. Now, that would mean in the short term, starting from January, there would be a lot of disruption on the supermarket shelves as supply chains are rebalanced. But I don't believe the apocalypse scenario. But that said, we would be looking at a lot of short-term disruption, a significant degree of inconvenience. Would it be the end of the world? No. Would everything eventually be sorted out? Yes. However, we are facing a huge economic shock next month when the government-backed furloughing ends, in that businesses, particularly in the leisure and the retail sectors, will have to decide whether to pay their staff salaries themselves or lay them off. And I can't emphasize strongly enough how big a shock to the system that's going to be next month. We'll see the real extent of unemployment as a result of COVID come the end of October. And the last thing we really need as a country is added economic difficulties in the early months of 2021 due to us having left the EU without a deal.